Hi, I'm Abhishek Patel. I'm a Linux creator and infinite player. I'm an IS engineer at Atomic Robots. Um, and I'll start the presentation by playing a short video.
Fire is the element of power. The people of the Fire Nation have desire and will, and the energy and drive to achieve what they want. Earth is the element of substance. The people of the Earth Kingdom are diverse and strong. They are persistent and enduring. Air is the element of freedom. The air nomads detached themselves from worldly concerns and found peace and freedom. Also, they apparently had pretty good senses of humor. Water is the element of change. The people of the water tribe are capable of adapting to many things. They have a deep sense of community and love that holds them together through anything.
Why are you telling me these things?
It is important to draw wisdom from many different places. If we take it from only one place, it becomes rigid and stale. Understanding others, the other elements, and the other nations will help you become whole.
The Avatar is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. It has so many amazing lessons in it. But one of the lessons that made the Avatar Aang one of the most powerful characters in the show at the end of it is he took different lessons from different people. His teachers were an old man who used to make pranks, and it was funny. Uh, a young teenage girl who was a student by herself, a blind girl who saw the world literally differently than most people, and an enemy or a supposed enemy who taught him firebending. As engineers, we generally focus on just the engineering aspect. But as I have been creating for a decade or more, I found out that just focusing on just engineering, though you can get a lot of things done, it's not enough to create products that change the world, because we have the capacity to literally do that. So today I'm going to be sharing two maps that will hopefully help you in your next project to change the world. But before I do that, I want to share what a map is. Your heart's beating. You can feel it. Ka, ka, ka. A flock of birds fly through the air. The water is still. And as you take the paddle and try to move the boat forward, your hands touch the water and it's icy cold. Kshum! Lightning strikes. You're scared, a storm's coming. Can you navigate to a safe haven, or will you drown? You use your knowledge of understanding and reading the stars, your experience of navigating the boat, and you do find yourself in safe havens. Just like our phones have sensors for capturing audio, capturing video, motion, every human being is born with sights, sounds, smells, emotions. These are senses, as you could tell, for us to understand the world around us. At this very moment, there's a lot of sounds, sights, feelings that your brain is automatically processing and filtering. As powerful as our brains are, we can't process reality in its raw form. Our minds just can't handle it. So we build maps. Sometimes it's called beliefs, but I like to call it maps because just like Google Maps you use to navigate reality, Google Maps doesn't show you reality as it is. It's a simplification of reality so that you may better navigate it. And so our brain does the same. There are many forms of maps. Books are maps, quotes are maps, code itself as we write them are maps. We understand the complexity of the systems that we're trying to solve and simplify it in code. And when someone writes it, we understand it because we have a common understanding. And so is the fact of the maps we use to build products. Marvel, Apple, and Nintendo are some of the few companies that have not created just a product that is very successful. They've done it a couple of times. There's a pattern that they follow that makes it more likely than others that what they do create is something people love. Not only do they love, it becomes part of the culture, an icon. And part of that is how they build the products. They ask questions differently than most other companies do. They see the world differently than most companies do. In life, there are two types of games. One's called finite, the other one's called infinite. Finite games have known rules, known players, an agreed upon objective, and that is generally to beat the competition. Basketball is an excellent example of a finite game. There are known rules. The rules do not change in the middle of the game. They're fixed. There are known players. The players are set and determined before the game even starts. And in the middle of the game, the players do not change unless it's known. And the agreed upon objective is generally to beat the competition. The other game is called an infinite game. Infinite game has known and unknown players. The rules keep on changing. And the objective of the game is to keep playing the game. You do not want the game to end. Life is an excellent example of an infinite game. When you were 8 years old, the rules of how you had to behave was completely different than the rules you have right now on how you have to behave. And they will be different 10 or 20 years from now. The players keep on changing. Your best friend when you're 8 years old is completely different in most cases than your best friend right now. And the people in your life will be completely different 10 or 20 years from now. The players of the game keep on changing. And the objective of the game is to keep playing the game. In either you don't want to die, of course, but you leave your legacy to your kids and their kids, and they keep playing the game. Problems arise when people confuse the two. War is an example where people think it's a finite game. They feel that they know the players, they know the rules, and objective, of course, is to beat the competition. But generally, war is catastrophe every single time because the players keep on changing in the middle of the war. People come in, people go out, and the rules keep on changing as well. People try to agree what the rules are, but sometimes people can break the rules. Business is one of those cases where it is an infinite game, but many people confuse it as a finite game. Boardrooms are filled with people comparing the competition. So when Friendster was the king of the social networks, they were comparing, what is MySpace doing? How can we beat them? Then Facebook came in and basically ate their lunch because they did not account for a player coming in. They only thought that the players are what they see in the market right now. One of the maps that is foundational to how the universe works and has been agreed upon by the laws and maps of physics is that everything is a system of one kind or another. The building blocks of the universe can be broken down into systems. You might not understand all the systems, but they are there. It's inputs, processes, and outputs. What I'll be sharing today is processes, maps that you can use, but they will be completely different outputs of how you will get based on the inputs. And the inputs are generally maps of other people and people who have different lives, different perspectives of the world. You put them to the same processes and the maps I'll be providing today, and you'll get completely different outputs. I've seen it over and over again. And the feedback you get will improve your outputs. So the first map I'm going to share today is called Blue Ocean Strategy. This was created by two scientists, researchers, and they observed how not only companies create breakthrough products, but also countries and cities solve problems in such a different way that is often surprising, but the results are generally profound. So looking at Nintendo, Nintendo is in a marketplace, a gaming marketplace, where it's playing with giants like Sony and Microsoft, who have multiple divisions, and gaming is just a small part of it. Nintendo just makes games. So to compete with these giants, the marketplace established by these game companies who compete with each other, like as if it's a finite game, is more graphics, more horsepower, games generally targeted towards the male demographics mostly, and generally related to fighting and war simulation of some sort. Nintendo said, okay, who are the people who are the soon-to-be people in the market, the people who are refusing, and the people who are unexplored? We ask these questions. The Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Wii targets not just men, but the old age, like the grandparents who also want to play with their children. Kids who just don't even have the money, but they want to connect with their parents. Focusing on these customers who are not in your target market and asking, how can we serve them? Can make you ask questions on product decisions that you would never have done before. And that's what Nintendo did. Nintendo Switch is one of the biggest gaming consoles. It's very hard to find. It's harder to find than PlayStation or Xbox. It gets sold out really fast. And the players are like parents. Parents who want to connect with other demographics of their friends. their kids. It was used holistically as a way to connect with the people they loved during the pandemic. So asking these questions is an important point to start the conversation. The other thing is to look at the different cycles of how the product is used. We focus a lot on just the use case, which is an important part. The user experience of someone buying a product all the way to disposing the product is an important thing to understand. And also, what are the simplicity, convenience, the fun and image? These are all aspects that if you look at it, many people don't. When you do look at it, you can see opportunities to create a breakthrough experience that no one else has even thought about, because they're so focused on mainly the use case. But a lot of people, especially who get Apple products, the packaging, Apple focuses on packaging, while others don't as much. And that generally makes them stand out in a way that it feels like a luxury experience opening the package, not even using it, just opening it. That is something they focus on, others don't. People put in just plastic shrink wraps and just give it in. But the whole experience, accounting for it, makes a difference. So when you do that, you can look at the people who are competing in your market and say, okay, let them play the finite game. I'll play an infinite game. And what I'll do is I'll see what they're competing in and just lower those factors, not even worry about it. Just do the bare minimum we need to just give the customers what we want. Our focus is to wow and focus on the market we do select, which is beyond the current market. And then give them offerings that the market is not even thinking about. That is when you create iconic products that people are surprised by. They have emotions to it. And you will attract and take a business that didn't even exist before, create a whole market, a blue ocean, that eventually in a decade, you will have competition. But then you start the process again and ask, what can I do for the next decades where I have almost no competition? Create a blue ocean for myself. The next map I'm going to share is called user story mapping. So this is an example, something I've seen over and over again, and you have probably as well. When you are in meetings, when you're in discussions, when you're in the product life cycle of building something, you all say, I agree, we agree. But we all have different visions on what we think we agree. It's only by putting what we think we agree in clarity, in discussions, that we see, okay, you're thinking of something different. I'm thinking of something different. You're thinking of something different. Then collaborating and then saying, okay, this is what we all agree on. Journey called shared understanding. And that is what is lacking when most products fail. There isn't a shared understanding between the people making the products. There's an assumption, yes, we agree. But there's no collaboration. There's no shared understanding. And that's where pieces get lost. And that is what happens when you see bugs. Bugs are a result of mainly miscommunication, misunderstanding between the different aspects of the people. But there's a way to solve that. It's called user story mapping. And it can be done with a simple index card. There are softwares out there to help you do it and collaborate over the internet. But the idea is simple. You take an experience of, for example, just adding a product to a shopping cart, and you ask, okay, what are all the steps, step by step, as if I'm telling a story, that this is what the user does, then they do this, then they do this, then they do this. Okay, now ask, what is the best scenario of them doing this? They add this, they add this, they do this, they do this. Okay, what is the worst scenario that currently happens when they add an item to the shopping cart? They do this, they do this, they do this. They're frustrated, they do this, they do this. And then combine that into a single narrative flow. The best experience, the worst experience, the most average experience. And see as a picture, this is the story of how this user adds a shopping cart. You'll see opportunities to make it better. And this is generally done in a group of 5 people. And should be a nice group of people, from designers, engineers, product managers, people building the product, the key people building the product. And then you see, okay, if I do this, it's improved. If I do this, it's improved. And you can group those tasks as activities. It's one activity is adding them to the shopping cart. One is activities is browsing the items. Then you can break it down in small cards. Like, what is the smallest things I need to do to build this? And you break it down smaller and smaller. And by the nature of doing this, you create modular software because you create the smallest module you need to build the product. One of the key differentiating factors about this process is when you create a release slice, like a version of a software, you are not creating a release for a feature. Like a scientist, you're asking a question. The question is a hypothesis that if I, for our current understanding, I build this, these are the small modules I build, will I achieve X or Y? It's a learning release. Every release is a learning release because that's the nature of building things. We cannot guarantee success. We cannot guarantee money in the bank because that doesn't always happen. But what can always happen is we can learn something. Creation as a way to learn something. And every release is a way to learn something, a valuable piece of knowledge. And that knowledge can be built towards the next release. The more we know what people want, the more we know how to get them towards the blue ocean, we build products better and better and better. Not only will we eventually build something people love and we have revenue in the bank and explosive growth, we have a database of knowledge, database of learning, maps of how the world really works by testing, that we can generally apply that knowledge to build other products. And that's how Apple, for example, has been so successful. They have done so much knowledge gathering through their creation products that they can create products end to end without third parties. Such a knowledge, such a map of how to build products is more valuable than the product themselves, because then you can just build anything. This is an example of a user story map using a software. And the whole point is, let's not build products where we are frustrated, thinking the user wants it, frustrated, they're not happy. Then hopefully by the end, putting 6-7 months into it, we build something, then hopefully users love it. And that's not a good approach to build products because we are not learning through the process. building small things, testing it out, incrementing a small amount, giving it to them. And through the product, we're creating usable products that people can actually use, achieve a small aspect of what the blue ocean promises. And through the process learning. The whole idea of this is to minimize the output of effort that we put and maximize the outcomes that we want and the impacts we want. Stories matter. Stories are maps. When someone buys a product and they love it, how do they share it? Things go viral because they share moments of how they use the product or how the product made them feel. The emotional reactions of what things go viral on the internet. So let's build products worth sharing, worth getting emotional about. You can glorify them or vilify them. The one thing you can't do is ignore them because they change things. They push the human race forward. Because those crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that do. Are you crazy enough? I have created numbers documents for both projects that I'll share to Angie, who can then share it with you. Something you can start looking at and applying for both of these maps. They're not perfect. I created for myself, but there should be a starting point. You ask the questions not many people are. And in turn, give you the tools, give you the maps to leave the world a better place than we found it.